Hey everyone, it's Sammy from Push Square, and I wanted to put together a really quick video today talking about Skyrim VR for PlayStation VR, which I was lucky enough to play at EGX last week. Now, there are a couple of caveats to this video, and they are basically that the build I played, I was told was very old, and it certainly did seem a little bit antiquated, and it lacked a little bit of polish, and as a result, they wouldn't let me direct feed capture any gameplay, and they certainly wouldn't let me record any off-screen gameplay. So what you're going to see just on the screen is kind of just the trailer played on loop, because that's all I have to show you for now. But I did play a good sort of 10 minutes, I'd say, so enough to kind of come up with some impressions for you, and I'm going to share that in this video. But do remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you like what you see. We have tons of PlayStation VR content all over the channel and on our website pushsquare.com, so make sure you check all of that stuff out. And without further ado, let's get into it. So Skyrim VR then, the first thing is that this is Skyrim. It's the full-length, full Skyrim game. I believe it includes all the DLC as well, and I was playing on a standard PS4, so it definitely runs on a standard PS4. You know, you don't need a PS4 Pro for it, obviously, but I do feel that's worth pointing out. So in the demo, they wanted to show off kind of the PlayStation Move controller stuff, which is fine. The way it works is you have a Move controller in each hand, and in the demo they had it set up where I kind of had like a fire magic spell in my left hand, I had a sword in my right hand, and I could switch to a bow and arrow if I wanted. Now the bow and arrow uses both PlayStation Move controllers, and it works a little bit like Sports Champions, if anyone remembers that game on the PS3. Basically you kind of hold one hand out, which is holding the front of the bow, and then you kind of notch an arrow with the other hand, pull it back, and you can fire it. This felt a little bit fiddly to me. In fact, all of the motion controls I wasn't particularly a fan of. The problem is that when you're using like the sword, you swing it around and that feels good, it's represented one-to-one in the game world, but when you hit something, because like there's no force feedback apart from a little bit of rumble in the Move controller, it doesn't feel like you're actually making a connection with anything. Does that make sense? So it feels a bit wishy-washy. It's like you're kind of slashing your sword at fresh air, and I don't find that satisfying at all. The magic spell worked a little bit better because you're able to aim that freeform, and I ended up using that quite a lot. I think they had like God mode turned on in this demo, so I didn't die and there was no real danger of that. As for the game itself, it does look nice. Obviously it's been downgraded. I think the lighting seems a lot flatter, the textures are probably not what they are certainly in the PS4 version of Skyrim, but it still looks like Skyrim. You know, you can tell you're inside that world, and that's the key part, I think. The resolution was fine, a little bit jaggy, a little bit fuzzy maybe, but you know, it looked good, and I'm sure on PS4 Pro it'll look even better. And the thing that I noticed that really stuck with me about it is, I find this with VR a lot, like the scale of the world, the scale of the environments is completely transformed in virtual reality. It doesn't matter how big your TV is, it doesn't matter how big, whether you're even playing on a projector or whatever, the difference when you're playing in VR is that everything looks and feels really big, and you definitely get that feeling in Skyrim VR. I'm not sure of the exact area that the demo started, but it basically took me into a kind of underground cavern area, and while those areas feel quite claustrophobic on the TV, they still feel claustrophobic in VR, but you still get a sense of, wow, this is kind of a big tunnel I'm walking through, and when the sort of enemies come and attack you, they feel like 6-foot kind of skeletons. I don't know what their name is in the lore, but you know those skeleton enemies, those guys feel really big in PlayStation VR, so all of that is really cool, really good stuff. The problem that I had with it mainly was the way that you move in this demo. So it uses the teleportation technique. Now if you own PlayStation VR, you'll be familiar with this. A lot of games use teleportation. I think the idea with teleportation is to keep motion sickness down, and obviously the PlayStation Moves don't have any sort of analog sticks or anything on them anyway, but I don't really like teleportation, and in a game of Skyrim scale it feels really slow and really tedious just pointing to where you want to transport to and then you teleport there. I just don't like this mechanic in any game, and I especially didn't like it in Skyrim. So just to explain again, for those of you that don't know, basically teleportation is where you kind of press a button on the move and it will bring up a point on the ground, and you can kind of use the motion control to move where that point is, but essentially when you let go of the button you'll automatically move to the point that you pointed to. But this doesn't give you much momentum. You can't sort of move quickly through environments, and especially when you're kind of being attacked from different directions, there's no real escape option. You can't like retreat or anything like that. I just really don't like this mechanic. Now my understanding is that the game will support the DualShock 4 as well, and if it's like other PlayStation VR games, my guess is that there'll be multiple control options. They'll probably keep the teleportation in for the DualShock 4 controls, but I'm sure they'll add other options with, you know, in terms of incremental turning, in terms of standard movement and the speed of movement. You know, recently Resident Evil 7 immediately springs to mind. That had loads of options that you could choose, and that was all played with the DualShock 4. So I'm sure if Bethesda's doing this properly, it will have multiple options for controls in Skyrim VR. But yeah, this demo, it's hard to take anything too concrete from it because it did feel like an early build. It was running on a standard PS4. I know a lot of viewers play on a standard PS4 as well, but you know, it can't be stressed enough that the PS4 Pro really does improve kind of image quality in PlayStation VR, and I think that'll be the case here. But it was those control issues, it was using the moves that I wasn't particularly keen on. I'm not sure why they're committed to showing that version. I guess that maybe they think that the motion controls are cool, and it is good that they've gone and retrofitted it into what is, you know, getting quite an old game now. But yeah, I didn't really get much out of the sort of swinging the sword around and teleporting all over the place. I would have preferred to just play it with a pad, and that is how I'll be playing it when I get it the full game later in the year. But let me know, are you looking forward to using PlayStation Move with Skyrim? Are you even planning to replay this? I mean, it's a big game, it's a big commitment, but kind of a lot of people have been asking for longer, meatier RPGs on PlayStation VR, so it doesn't get much meatier than Skyrim really, does it? Let me know in the comments section. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more PlayStation VR content, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Catch you next time.